So what we're going to talk about today is the benefits of living without the TV. And we're going to explore pros and cons of living with one and see if we can figure out the way forward. Is it good to have a TV at home, or perhaps is it better to get rid of it altogether? Okay, so I'll let you start first today. So, what's your take on it?
Okay, my take. Well, a little bit of my history with my relationship with TV. I spent a lot of time watching TV back in the days when you had 4 or 5 channels. It was 4 channels and up to 5 channels. There was some interesting stuff that I would watch, but mostly I wouldn't say it was high quality information that I was getting. It served some purposes. It was easy. It was like pre-digested food. It was all, the ideas were presented to me, it killed time. And I think when you're younger, you have a different perspective of time. I think part of the relationship with TV that's developed is now I value my time more, and so I wouldn't be so willing to waste it. Whereas sometimes when you're younger, for me anyway, it felt like killing time was something to do, and TV killed a lot of time. So that was my early relationship with TV.
Yeah, so
what about yourself?
Let me jump in here. So I'm thinking that age, I don't know, partially I would agree with you because that's what happened in my life. However, I wouldn't say necessarily that you're just killing time. I think that for many people, watching TV is like recharging their batteries. So yes, when I used to watch a lot of TV myself, I remember that I did feel recharged, of course, until a certain extent. And I think that's why so many people are watching TV these days, not only because they've been conditioned to it, from the very young age, but also to vent, also to relax. Because if you think about, many people, they don't really enjoy their jobs. And when they come home, when they're knackered, they don't want to do something really difficult like reading books. They'd rather, sit back and, switch on the TV and yes, you can call it kill time, or recharge batteries, or it's just an easy way to do it. And I used to be the same. Don't get me wrong, I used to watch TV all the time. However, roughly 10 years ago, I've stopped. I've stopped watching TV completely, and I've switched almost exclusively to Netflix. And someone would think, yeah, it's probably better, but I don't think so. The way I used to watch it, it was horrible. I would be binge watching for hours on end, and I just felt completely drained afterwards. And at the time, I thought that I was really learning a lot because, for me, I always used an excuse. English is my second language. So I always said that, that's how I learned my language. I learned it from the TV. And now, of course, in the retrospect, I know that, I was in denial. It was my mind trying to come up with excuses as to why watching TV is okay. And I tried to look at the bright side of it. But yeah, clearly about 3 years ago, I remember that quite well when I started watching, the personal improvement videos, the self-help, and when I started reading books, surrounding that topics, I've started to reconsidering whether or not this is a good thing to do, whether it's valuable, whether it's making me a better person, or is it a contributing factor not to achieve success? So it was roughly 3 years ago when I stopped that nonsense with binge watching Netflix, and slowly over the course of last 2 years, I think I got rid of TV completely. I think that it was only when we started, this project back in March, when I've stopped watching on Sunday, because for over a year and a half, I've reduced the amount of watching Netflix to just 1 day a week. But I would still, sit and watch like 3-4 movies on Sunday. It was like, I was craving it so much. And yeah, since March, since I've became, more engaged in this other project, I've stopped watching it. And, initially, yes, I did miss that a little. But as the time goes by, I feel that I don't need a TV in my life anymore. I still, I want to watch good movies every now and again. But what happened to me, recently is that I went on Netflix and I started watching a movie. And maybe 15 minutes into the movie, I thought to myself, God damn it, I felt so guilty about watching it. And it wasn't even good that good of a movie. And that made me think that, yes, why is that? And I think that there was this perception shift that happened in my life, that right now, if I'm going to use any screen time, I want that time to be enriching. I want that time to make me a better person.
Well, sure. And I think you're saying the same thing as me, though, with the killing time. So it's a paradigm shift. So for me, before, I was happy to kill my time because I viewed it differently. Now I would feel guilty as well because I don't want to kill that time. I want to make the most of that time. I want to invest that time. So if I'm investing that time in watching a movie which is maybe a bit entertaining, but I'm not learning anything from it, then for me that's a death of my time, and I don't want to do that. I want to make the most of my time. Where things changed for me. So when I was 16 years old, I left home and went to stay with my uncle, and that was very much a house. He had other lodgers there. It was very much a house which TV was not a big part of the culture there. It was rarely on. People listened to music or they spoke to each other. They socialised. A lot of socialisation, a lot of kind of discussion. And that changed me. So it wasn't a conscious choice. It wasn't like it was a conscious choice, but it wasn't some goodness in me. It was like I was exposed to a different culture, and it affected me, and it changed me to somewhat. And that's going back quite a lot of years now. So it's been a lot of time away from TV. I think sometimes when you don't have something in your life, it gives you that different perspective. It was there all the time, constantly, and yet TV means different things to different people. I'm just saying what it's meant for me. And what my relationship with TV's been. I know there's like older people who sit at home and they're quite lonely and they're not even really watching the TV. It's on in the background. It provides atmosphere, and so it means different things for different people.
I think I've got a slightly different view when it comes to that, because in my opinion, the TV in general has a really negative, detrimental effect on our mental health. And as you know, especially news, the way they're designed, they're all biased towards negativity. They're all biased towards wars, towards violence. And what they're doing is they're skewing your perception. They make you think and they make you believe that the world is much worse place than it actually is. And because you're being, programmed on a daily basis by these news, these information from all around, whose main goal is just purely to keep you engaged for advertisement purposes. And yes, some people will argue, but I need to know what's going on, I can't just, ignore anything. I don't want to be an ignorant, I need to know what's happening in the politics and the news. But the way I see it is, you don't need to know that. It's all valid. You can read, papers if you really, really have to. But at the same time, it runs on the same principle. It's all negative. It's all bringing you down. And that's why I think that it's better to choose what's important for you.
So what I've found, not watching TV, so that includes the news, is if anything important happens, you're going to pick it up from the public.
Yeah.
And then if you want to go and have a look and research it, then you can do that. Like apparently there's something called COVID going on just now. And I'm not focused on that. I hear bits and pieces and these other things in the news. If it's important and it's big, people will talk about it. And you're going to hear plenty about it.
And the other thing is, especially when it comes to news, 8-9 months ago, I've introduced a new rule in my life. Give yourself 10 days before you're going to read that article, before you're going to read about, whatever happened then. Because normally, over the course of these 10 days, the new information comes to light that turns the original news into something that's not that big of a deal. Because normally media, they have a tendency to make a big fuss out of something, But like I said, from my experience, I've noticed that normally 10 to 14 days after the event, with the new information, at hand, you can make a way better decision as to what really happened. So that's why I think that instead of watching TV, it's so much better to spend your time on, let's say, watching some educational videos on YouTube, watching some documentaries on a Netflix.
So you've been doing that for a while now.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've been spending a lot of time learning. You said to me the other day how much you love spending time looking at videos on YouTube and learning things. So you've been doing that for a while now. So how has this changed you? What effect has it had on your life? What effect has it had on your mood?
It recharges my batteries. It makes me feel that I'm making progress, and I don't feel stagnated. And every single day when I learn new things, I feel happy. I feel happy because I know that this new information has now enriched my life, tiny little bit. But it makes no difference. It makes you feel that you're making a progress. And when you feel that you just want to have more of that in your life. So it's not a sudden shift. This is something you have to get used to. This is something, this is a habit again. As we've discussed before, you have to get out of the habit of watching a TV, and you have to get into a different habits. Whether it's, watching some educational videos, whether it's watching documentaries, whether it's reading books, choose something that will make you a better person. Choose something that will make you feel good about yourself rather than spending, 5 hours on watching Netflix and then having a guilty conscience. It's like, with the junk food. At the time, it's so tasty and you think it's so great. But afterwards, you feel so bad about, what you've eaten because it's so unhealthy for you. So this is exactly how I felt very often, after binge watching, some series. After 4, 5, 6 hours, on one hand, yes, it was so entertaining at the time. But afterwards, I felt guilty because I knew that, this time is precious. And the time is a commodity. If you're going to go to work and you're going to spend all your free time on watching TV, you're wasting away your life. And you're wasting the incredible potential that lies in all of us. Because I think that we're all capable of, achieving a lot. And that's why, I'm thinking about, starting a new business. And the reason why is because I want something more from life. But it's really, really difficult to do if you are in the habit of watching TV. Because it steals your time. It steals that precious time that you could spend on making, creating a new business. And people think, but it's hard, it's got to be hard. But I think personally, from my own experience, that there's nothing that made me more alive in my life than creating this podcast, creating this studio, and it made me realize what's really important. And what I don't want to happen is, when I'm in my 60s, 70s, or hopefully my 80s or 90s, and I'm going to be lying on my deathbed, that I'm going to have all these regrets, that I've had all this potential. I could have done so much with my life, but I haven't done it. And that's what I'm trying to fight with. That's why I love to read books. I love to form my own opinion, and I love to be a maverick. I love to be different than everybody else, and not for a show. I just hate the idea of being average. I just feel it's so important, for me to have some big goals, to have something that on the face of it may seem unachievable. And then knowing that, every single day, by focusing on the right things, you're making little progress that's bringing you slightly closer to the ultimate goal. And the point is that I try to share this with more people, but for some reason, people are resistant to it. Because why do you think that is?
I think that maybe, so where's the shift? I can't speak to the shift for you, but the shift for me was before I was failing at life, and I was a failure, and so I'm killing time. Now I'm succeeding at life. So there's a whole different shift, a way of looking. So depending on how you see how you're doing in life, it will shape how you view your time.
That's right.
And part of that's maybe age and opportunities, but a lot of it is how you see your life. Like there's no reason that you get some highly motivated young people and they've got so much success and they're using their time wisely, but a lot of it is how you view your life. And I guess hopefully our goal a little bit with this channel is to share a bit of our own journey and to hopefully encourage people to have more success with their life and to feel like they're succeeding more. And I think it's a gradual process. It's like a shift. You need to move that, pull that wheel around.
And it takes time. It takes time.
And it takes habits. And you can learn from other people. You can say, well, what helped them? Maybe I'll try that. Maybe that'll help me. And it can be different for all of us, are all a bit different. And you can gather the things and try some things out and see if it works for you and see if that's part of a solution. If it doesn't, chuck it out, try something else.
Yeah, I think that's really, really interesting. And I think also that one of the reasons why people don't change is because they're being habitually conditioned to do this. And when they were kids, that's what they saw in their households. Everywhere you go, you see TVs. Even you go to the gym and there's a big TV on the wall that either playing music videos or showing you news. So it's like it's so prevalent, in our society that it's really, really difficult to change, because for some reason at the time when you are watching a lot of TV, lots of news, you feel like this is an important part of your life. You think that by watching, you're making yourself more educated because you know what's happening in the world. But like I said earlier, I think that because the way the news are designed, because the way media are trying to portray all the information, it gives you a skewed picture and it makes you a negative person. So that's one of the things that I've noticed the moment I stopped watching news. And that was news primarily, rather than TV in general, is that my mental health has improved so much, because suddenly you don't hear about all that, negative stuff. You don't hear all the negative predictions of how horrible life's going to happen unless this and this is going to happen. And instead, if you focus on achieving a goal, even if it's a small goal, and as long as you see a progress, you're a happy person. And most of the time, what I found is what you said, that if it's something really, really important, worth of knowing, somebody will tell you. And especially in the morning, I had the habit of waking up first thing in the morning and reading news. And that's probably the worst thing you can do to yourself when you wake up in the morning, because what it does, it puts you in a certain mood. So if you read something depressing first thing in the morning, you're gonna have a depressed mood for the rest of the day. So I'm a EU national, as well as a British national now. But at the time when I found out about Brexit, and because of the stuff that I've seen, that I've read online and I've seen in the news, that made me feel sick to my stomach. I was petrified of my future. I had this really, really doomsday prediction in my head that was just running on repeat over and over and over. And that's how they thrive. That's how they're keeping you engaged, because they know that if you're petrified, if you're fearful of your life, of your future, you're going to be coming back because you want to know more. And the way it's designed also is that it's not only negative. Sometimes they need to give you something positive for you to know that, okay, there's a hope. So that keeps you engaged in watching that stuff. Because even though, there's a little bump up, next day there's more and more negative news, and they make you feel more and more sick to your stomach. And that has a direct impact on your immune system, as I've discussed with you earlier, with cortisol and all that. But that's why I think it's a poison.
So, Mariusz, is there anything good about TV then? I was thinking about this. What are the pros of TV? Everything has to have something good about it. And there is. So, I've always viewed TV, there's been a parallel between information and what we consume information for our brain, because we need information for our brain, and TV is a provider of that, and food. For me, it just seems like there's a parallel there. Our body needs food, our brain needs information, and we know there's different types of foods. There's food that are good for your body. I mean, if you're starving, then some cake. What's the famous woman in France, who the queen who said, "Oh, they're poor, well, let them eat cake." So, however, if you eat cake all the time, that's not going to be very healthy for your body. In the same way, for me, if I watch preconceived ideas and stuff that doesn't stimulate me, it just entertains me. To me, I liken that. I think there's a parallel between that and cake for my body. That for my brain is like cake for my body. It's not good for me. However, one of the things TV does do for us is it unites us to some extent. This was my thought on the pros. So we're shooting ourselves in the foot slightly because we want to produce content that other people can see, and often there's things, often in good videos on YouTube, you'll find people using clips out of films that you remember from when you were young, and you get what they're saying, and it makes it interesting. It's like, oh yeah, and it engages you because you have that shared. That's a shared thing. If you'd never seen those videos, then that's a problem. So in a little bit of a way, there is some pro there, and my fear slightly is that there might come a point, because of my huge reduction in consumption of entertaining media, as in films and TV, there'll be some things that I won't get, but also some things that I might not be able to utilise because I don't have that information. So the consuming is quite good. It's why we give children lots of stories. So if you starve a child of information, in the same way if you starve them of food, you'll malnourish their body. If you starve them of information, you malnourish their brain. They need stimulation. You see it with small children. If they're not stimulated, if they don't get interaction's a form of information.
Of course.
So TV isn't like, it's not like there's nothing good about it.
Just to be clear.
Yeah.
Just to be clear. When we talk about TV, what I'm talking about is the programs like Love Island. I'm not including things like really good movies. Something that will help you to understand something from totally different perspective.
Sure. Well, for me, those wouldn't be junk food. For me, those would be something with a bit of nourishment.
Absolutely. So I'm talking about DVDs.
Sure.
We're talking about selectively choosing certain movies that are epic, like Matrix. I think everyone should watch Matrix. And I think that, the moment that my children's going to be intelligent enough to fully understand the meaning of it, I would love them to watch it. And just to be clear, I'm not saying that all TV is bad, but I wouldn't really classify movies as
I'm not saying that you are saying that. I'm just describing how I view TV and kind of that parallel between food for the body and information for the mind. And even within my own story, so it's all very well I stopped watching TV because there was a culture, but at the same time, computers were just coming on the go. And you had game systems and your computers. So it's like there was a slight shift over anyway to there, because like there's a new thing that can entertain me. So there was some entertainment there. And like, look at computers. They're fantastic. One, there's much more control. With the TV, there's 4 or 5 stations. You were stuck. You had to kind of watch what was on offer. And now, look where we are now. You got so much choice, and you can choose and be selective. But why do people watch the programs that you say that you consider as junk food? Love Island, please don't sue us, Love Island. But there's other things that you consume judges as not high quality information. Why? Well, one of the things, like obviously there's different takeaways for them. But maybe they're
social thing.
The social aspect. Yeah. So and there's something healthy about there. It's like the ideas bind together. They give a common ground. I worked in a factory when I was maybe 15, 16. I stamped the lids on pies all day with a group of older women predominantly who talked about Coronation Street and EastEnders all day long. And it gave them something to talk about. It's blooming boring for me because I don't watch these programmes and there's no interest there for me. But it's your peers. What do your peers look at? And like, look at kids now, they watch these videos and there's some concerns there maybe about the hyper entertainment value of them, which is like, everything's a shock value. And you think, and then you hear them, because you see them as an adult, these, I can't think of the word, but they recycle and they do the same. They emulate it. That's what you said earlier on. You emulate information, it affects you. And that's
the problem that I have with it.
Sure.
That's the problem, like you said, it's a junk food. But the way I see the world right now, if I have a choice to read a book, I don't want to read science fiction. I don't want to read anything like that. I want to read something that will make me a better person. And whereas if I was to read some great sci-fi book, it will take me, 15, 20 hours to read it. And I would feel guilty that I was entertaining myself, for all that time. But ultimately...
How dare you?
Yeah.
Not my sci-fi. There's some good sci-fi books out there. Let's be fair. There's some things. There's some good things to learn from sci-fi. I like I don't read a lot of sci-fi, but there is some sci-fi that.
But the bottom line is
that
it's a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
It's a changing your priorities. However, I don't think that many people who do love things like Love Island and other of these programs are going to be watching us.
Sure.
Because it's just
And I think your point as well is, and I think you're absolutely correct, that there's junk food. Like, we're not saying stop watching your TV and just read books. It's like there's lots of junk food books, big time. I think that's your point, and it's absolutely Mills and Boon to name.
But what
one.
we have today,
huge
with the YouTube, people don't understand. People don't know how to utilize it. And you've got a whole encyclopedia. You've got, if you want to become a photographer, go on YouTube. If you want to learn how to play piano, go there. If you want to learn a foreign language, go there. You can find everything, and it's all for free. It's all high quality, and that's something that boggles my mind, because for me it's so obvious. Yes, why? Everybody's not doing it. Why is it that other people still choose to watch cat videos for 5-6 hours when they're online? I can't seem to understand it. But I'm not, just to be clear, I don't want to judge these people. I was one of these people one day. So that's why we're talking about it today. Just to try to introduce people to ideas and to show them it is possible to change. At the time, I thought I would never change. TV was all my life. I would go to work, come back home, switch on TV, switch on, CDs, and watch Netflix for, until I went to sleep. And I was happy with my life. I didn't see any problem with it. But that's one of the things. It's stopping you from achieving success. It's preventing you from exploring, all the possibilities, from learning all new things, because it's so addictive. And I think that that's the main takeaway that I would like people to take from today's discussion, is to understand the negative impact of some of these programs, and instead to try to replace these with a good brain diet. To replace it with something that will make you a better person, something that will help you to achieve a success in your life. Is there anything else, Ben, that you would like to add to it?
Yeah, I think the takeaways are: be selective in what you consume. You can reorientate your life. You can change your life. It's not going to be quick, but it is possible. So be selective in what you're consuming, in whatever form you consume it, and maybe cut down cut down on television, and try something else maybe, and consume in a different way. See how that affects you,
and know that it's worth it. You won't see results right away, but with hindsight, I wish I would have done it many years before.
Mm-hmm. If you watch a lot of TV, try watching a little bit less.